The whip cracked across her back before she even finished her sentence, and Eleanor Montgomery tasted blood as she bit down on her tongue to keep from crying out in front of the entire town of Dusty Creek, Texas. It was April 1878, and the midday sun beat down mercilessly on the wooden platform where she stood tied to the post, her hands bound above her head, her white blouse already torn and stained red from 3 lashes. Her crime had been simple. She had spoken her mind at the town meeting the night before, suggesting that perhaps the railroad company should not be allowed to seize the Henderson family farm without fair compensation. Her father, Samuel Montgomery, the wealthiest rancher in 3 counties and a man with a temper as vast as his holdings, had decided that his 22-year-old daughter needed to learn the consequences of embarrassing him in public. The crowd gathered in the dusty Main Street shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. No one dared. Samuel Montgomery owned half the businesses in town and held mortgages on most of the farms. The sheriff stood to the side, his hat pulled low, pretending to study something in the distance. Eleanor's mother had been locked in her room back at the ranch, sedated with laudanum so she could not interfere. This was the 4th time in 6 months that Eleanor had been publicly punished for speaking out of turn, and each time the punishment grew more severe. "Maybe this will teach you to keep that sharp tongue behind your teeth," her father's foreman, Jake Turner, said as he raised the whip again. He was a cruel man with cold eyes who enjoyed his work far too much. Eleanor lifted her chin, her green eyes blazing with defiance despite the pain radiating through her body. "The truth does not change just because you try to silence it," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the street. "What you are doing to the Hendersons is wrong, and everyone here knows it." The whip came down again, harder this time, and Eleanor could not stop the gasp that escaped her lips. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. Through the haze of pain, she heard boots hitting the wooden planks of the platform, heavy and purposeful. "That is enough," a deep voice said, calm but carrying an unmistakable edge of steel. Eleanor blinked away the tears that had formed involuntarily in her eyes and saw a tall figure step between her and Jake Turner. The man was a stranger, at least to her, though she heard a few murmurs of recognition ripple through the crowd. He wore dusty traveling clothes, brown leather chaps over dark trousers, a worn blue shirt, and a black hat pulled low over his face. 2 revolvers sat holstered at his hips, and he carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was capable of. "This is none of your concern, Brennan," Jake Turner said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "I am making it my concern," the stranger Brennan replied. "Cut her down." Mr. Montgomery gave specific orders. 10 lashes. She has only had 4. Then Mr. Montgomery can take it up with me directly. Brennan turned slightly, and Eleanor could see his profile now. He was probably in his late 20s, with a strong jaw shadowed by a few days of stubble and eyes the color of storm clouds. There was something about the set of his shoulders, the way he stood, that made it clear he was not a man who made idle threats. "Cut her down now, or I will do it myself, and you will not like how that goes." Jake Turner looked past Brennan toward the crowd, clearly searching for Samuel Montgomery, but Eleanor's father had not bothered to attend the punishment himself. He never did. He just gave the orders and let others carry out his cruelty. "You are going to regret this," Jake said, but he was already backing away, the whip lowering. "I have regretted better men than you," Brennan said mildly. He drew a knife from his belt and stepped behind Eleanor. She felt the ropes around her wrists give way, and suddenly her arms fell forward. Her legs buckled, but strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. Brennan lifted her as though she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. "Where is the doctor?" he called out. "There is no doctor in Dusty Creek," someone in the crowd answered. "Closest one is in San Antonio, 2 days' ride." Brennan cursed under his breath. "Where can I take her that is clean and safe?" The crowd shifted again, people looking at each other but no one wanting to volunteer and risk Samuel Montgomery's wrath. Finally, an older woman with gray hair pinned up in a neat bun stepped forward. "The church," she said firmly. "No man would dare cause trouble in the Lord's house, not even Samuel Montgomery. I am Mrs. Patterson. I will help tend to her." Brennan nodded once and started walking, carrying Eleanor as gently as if she were made of spun glass. She wanted to protest, to say she could walk, but the truth was that she was not certain she could. The pain in her back was intense, and she felt dizzy and sick. Instead, she let herself rest against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. "Why did you do that?" she asked quietly as they crossed the street toward the small white church at the far end. "Because no one else would," he said simply, "and because you were right. What they are doing to the Hendersons is wrong." Eleanor closed her eyes, something tight in her chest loosening just slightly. She had spent so long feeling like she was screaming into a void, like no one in this town had any courage left, that hearing someone else acknowledge the truth felt like water in the desert. Mrs. Patterson hurried ahead and opened the church doors. Inside, the air was cooler and dust motes danced in the light streaming through the simple glass windows. Brennan carried Eleanor to the front pew and laid her down carefully on her stomach so that her back was accessible. Mrs. Patterson disappeared into the back room and returned with clean cloths, a basin of water, and a bottle of whiskey. "This is going to hurt," she warned Eleanor, pouring some of the whiskey onto a cloth. "Everything hurts," Eleanor said, trying for humor, but her voice came out thinner than she intended. Brennan pulled up a chair and sat down near her head. He took off his hat and set it on the pew, revealing dark brown hair that was slightly too long and curled at the collar. "You can hold my hand if you need to," he offered. Eleanor looked at him, surprised. Men in her experience did not offer comfort. They gave orders or punishments or uncomfortable compliments that felt more like threats. But this stranger's gray eyes were steady and kind, with none of the calculation or cruelty she was used to seeing. "I do not even know you," she said. "My name is Cole Brennan. I am a horse rancher from Montana. I am here to buy breeding stock from a ranch about 20 miles south of here." Now you know me. Despite everything, Eleanor felt a small smile tug at her lips. "Eleanor Montgomery. I know," Cole said. "I heard them say your name before I stopped them, Mrs." Patterson began cleaning the wounds on Eleanor's back, and even though the older woman was as gentle as possible, Eleanor could not help the sharp intake of breath. Without thinking, she reached out and grabbed Cole's hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately, warm and strong and steady. "Tell me about Montana," Eleanor said through gritted teeth, needing something to focus on besides the pain. Cole seemed to understand. "It is beautiful country," he said, his voice low and soothing. "Wide open spaces where you can ride for days and never see another soul. The mountains rise up like they are trying to touch heaven, and in the winter they are capped with snow so white it hurts your eyes to look at. We get harsh weather, real harsh, but the land is good and clean. A person can breathe up there. A person can say what they think without fear." "That sounds like paradise," Eleanor whispered. "It has its own troubles," Cole admitted, "but I have never seen anyone whipped in the town square for having an opinion." Mrs. Patterson finished cleaning the wounds and began applying a salve that smelled of herbs and beeswax. "These are going to scar," she said quietly. "I am sorry, child." "They would not be my first scars," Eleanor said bitterly. "Though they are the most visible." Cole's jaw tightened. "Your father does this to you regularly?" "Whenever I forget my place." Eleanor met his eyes. "Which is often, apparently. I cannot seem to stop myself from speaking up when I see injustice. My father says it is unbecoming in a woman. He says no man will ever want to marry someone so stubborn and outspoken." "Then the men around here are fools," Cole said flatly. Something warm bloomed in Eleanor's chest at his words. Mrs. Patterson bound her back with clean bandages, working efficiently. When she finished, she helped Eleanor sit up carefully. The room spun for a moment, but Cole steadied her with a hand on her arm. "You need rest and time to heal, Mrs. Patterson said. "You cannot go back to your father's ranch. I have nowhere else to go." Eleanor felt the weight of that truth settle over her. She had no money of her own, no relatives in town who would risk her father's anger by taking her in. "He will send men to fetch me eventually anyway." "He always does. What if you left?" Cole said suddenly. "What if you got on a horse and rode away from here and never looked back?" Eleanor stared at him. "I do not have a horse. My father controls everything I own, and even if I did, where would I go? A woman traveling alone would be asking for trouble. Besides, he would come after me. He would consider it a challenge to his authority. What if you were not alone?" Cole leaned forward, his eyes intense. "What if you came with me? I am heading back to Montana in 3 days once I finish my business here. I could use help on the drive north. I have 6 horses I am bringing back, good breeding stock. It is a long journey, and an extra pair of hands would be useful." "You do not even know me," Eleanor said, echoing her earlier words. "Why would you make such an offer?" "Because I know enough." Cole's voice was firm. "I know you have courage. I know you stand up for what is right even when it costs you. I know you deserve better than to be treated like property by a man who should be protecting you, not breaking you. And I know that if you stay here, one day your father is going to go too far, and you will not survive it." The stark truth of his words hit Eleanor like a physical blow because she had been thinking the same thing herself for months. Her father's punishments were escalating. The rage in his eyes when she defied him was growing darker. She had begun to genuinely fear that one day he would kill her, either intentionally or by accident in the heat of his fury. Mrs. Patterson put a hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "The boy speaks sense," she said quietly. "Your father is not a well man, child. His anger is consuming him. I have known your family since you were born, and I have watched him grow worse with each passing year. If you have a chance to leave, you should take it." "But I know nothing about driving horses or surviving on the trail," Eleanor protested weakly. "I will teach you," Cole said. "And you do not have to decide right now. Think about it. I will be in town for 3 more days. But if you want to leave, be at the stable before dawn on Friday morning. I will be there, and I will take you with me. No obligations beyond helping me get the horses north safely. Once we reach Montana, you will be free to do whatever you want. Stay, find work elsewhere, whatever you choose, but at least you will be alive and away from here." Eleanor looked into his eyes and saw no deception there, no hidden agenda, just honest concern and a straightforward offer of help. It was so foreign to her experience that she almost did not know how to process it. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. Cole was quiet for a moment, and something painful flickered across his face. "I had a sister," he said finally, "younger than me. She married a man who seemed decent enough on the surface, but behind closed doors he was cruel. He did not like that she was educated, that she read books and had opinions. He tried to break her spirit the same way your father is trying to break yours. I did not know how bad it was until it was too late. By the time I found out and came to get her, she had taken her own life rather than endure another day of it." His voice roughened. "So when I see someone in a similar situation, I do not turn away. I cannot. Not again." Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes, but these were different from the tears of pain. These were tears of recognition and gratitude. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "Do not be sorry. Just think about my offer." Cole stood and put his hat back on. "I need to go secure lodging for the night and check on my horses. Mrs. Patterson, can she stay here safely?" "She can stay in my home," Mrs. Patterson said. "I live behind the church. My husband passed 2 years ago, and I have plenty of room. Samuel Montgomery may be powerful, but even he would not dare cross me too openly. I know too many of his secrets." Cole nodded. "Good, Eleanor, I will check on you tomorrow if that is acceptable." "It is," Eleanor said, "and thank you for everything." He touched the brim of his hat in a small gesture of farewell, and then he was gone, his boots echoing on the wooden floor of the church. Mrs. Patterson helped Eleanor to her feet and supported her as they made their way slowly out the back door and into the small cottage behind the church. The older woman settled her into a clean bed in a spare room that smelled of lavender and old books. Eleanor lay on her stomach, exhausted and aching but also feeling something she had not felt in a very long time: hope. That night, as she drifted in and out of fitful sleep, Eleanor thought about Cole Brennan's offer. Montana seemed impossibly far away, another world entirely. Could she really just leave everything she had ever known? Her mother would be devastated, though her mother was already more ghost than person, dulled by years of laudanum and submission. Eleanor had no siblings, no close friends who had not been frightened away by her father's reputation. What was she really leaving behind except pain and oppression? And what was she moving toward? Cole had said she could say whatever she wanted around him. The promise of that freedom was intoxicating, to speak her mind without fear of the whip or the locked room or the cold silence of disapproval. To be treated as a person with thoughts and feelings that mattered. It seemed too good to be true, but Cole had stepped in when no one else would. He had stopped her punishment and carried her to safety. He had offered her a way out, asking for nothing in return except help with the horses. She did not think she was foolish enough to romanticize the situation. She knew traveling would be hard and dangerous. She knew Montana would have its own challenges. But surely anything was better than staying here waiting for her father to kill her. By morning, Eleanor had made her decision. When Mrs. Patterson brought her breakfast, she said, "I am going to go with him, with Cole, on Friday morning." Mrs. Patterson nodded as though she had expected this. "I think that is wise. You will need supplies. I have some clothes that might fit you, and I can put together food for the journey. We will have to be careful. If your father hears you are planning to leave, he will lock you up somewhere you can never escape." "How do we keep it secret?" Eleanor asked. "You stay here, out of sight. I will tell anyone who asks that you are still too injured to move and that you are sleeping." "It is not far from the truth. You do need rest to heal enough for travel. In the meantime, I will gather what you need." Over the next 2 days, Eleanor stayed hidden in Mrs. Patterson's cottage. Her back hurt terribly, and she ran a slight fever the first night, but Mrs. Patterson's careful nursing brought her through it. The older woman brought her broth and bread, changed her bandages twice a day, and treated her with a kindness that made Eleanor want to weep. No one had been truly kind to her in so long. Cole came by on Thursday afternoon, entering through the back door so as not to be seen. Eleanor was sitting up in a chair by the window, dressed in one of Mrs. Patterson's simple calico dresses. She still moved stiffly, but the worst of the pain had dulled to a persistent ache. "How are you feeling?" Cole asked, taking the chair across from her. "Better," Eleanor said honestly. "Well enough to travel, I think, though I will not be much use for anything strenuous for a while." "That is all right. The horses are well trained. Mostly we just need to keep them moving in the right direction and make sure they do not wander off or injure themselves. I have done drives alone before. Having you along just means I will not be talking to myself quite as much." Eleanor smiled. "I am still not entirely certain why you are doing this. Taking on an injured woman you do not know seems like more trouble than help." Cole looked at her steadily. "Do you want the honest truth, always?" "That first day, when I saw you on that platform, when I heard what you said even knowing the whip was about to come down again, I thought I had never seen anyone so brave. And later, when you did not cry or beg or apologize for speaking your mind, I thought I had never met anyone so strong. The world needs people like you, Eleanor, people who refuse to be silenced. I do not want to see that light go out because some small-minded tyrant cannot stand to be challenged." He paused. "Also, I meant what I said about it being a long drive. It will be nice to have someone to talk to." Eleanor felt heat rise to her cheeks. She was not used to such direct praise. "I am not that brave. I am frightened most of the time. Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is doing what needs to be done despite being afraid." Cole leaned back in his chair. "Tomorrow morning, be ready before first light. I will bring a horse for you. We will leave quickly and quietly. Once we are clear of town, we can take our time, but I want to be well away before anyone notices you are gone." "Will my father come after us?" Eleanor had to ask. "Probably," Cole said bluntly. But I know how to cover a trail, and once we are a few days out, it will be hard for him to track us. Texas is a big place. By the time he organizes a search party, we will be long gone, and somehow I doubt he will want to chase us all the way to Montana. Men like him prefer to terrorize people close to home where they have power and influence. Eleanor nodded slowly. There is something you should know. My father has a lot of influence and he holds grudges. If he finds out you helped me, he could make trouble for you. He could damage your reputation or interfere with your business. Let him try, Cole said, and there was steel in his voice. I have built my ranch from nothing. I do not owe anyone any favors, and I do not scare easily. Your father's reputation means nothing in Montana. Still, I want you to know what you are risking. I appreciate that, but my mind is made up. Cole stood and put his hat back on. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow starts a new chapter of your life. After he left, Eleanor sat by the window for a long time, watching the sun set over Dusty Creek. She thought about her mother, locked away in her drugged haze, and felt a pang of guilt. But she could not save her mother. She had tried for years and failed. Her mother had made her choices, had decided that submission and oblivion were preferable to fighting back. Eleanor could not follow that same path. She would rather die free than live as a prisoner in her own life. Mrs. Patterson helped her pack a small bundle of belongings that night. 2 changes of clothes, some basic toiletries, a warm coat for the cold nights, and a small leather-bound journal with a pencil. To record your journey, Mrs. Patterson said, every woman should document her own story. I do not know how to thank you, Eleanor said, her voice thick with emotion. You thank me by living, Mrs. Patterson said firmly. You go north, and you build a life, and you speak your mind freely, and you show the world what a strong woman can accomplish when she is not being held back. That will be thanks enough. They embraced carefully, mindful of Eleanor's healing back, and then Eleanor lay down to try to sleep. She managed a few restless hours before Mrs. Patterson woke her in the darkness before dawn. Eleanor dressed quickly in sturdy traveling clothes and dark colors that would not show dirt easily. Mrs. Patterson handed her a pack with food and supplies, and they slipped out the back door into the pre-dawn chill. Cole was waiting at the stable at the edge of town as promised, holding the reins of 7 horses. 6 were the breeding stock he had purchased, beautiful animals with strong lines and intelligent eyes. The 7th was a smaller mare, a pretty chestnut with a white blaze on her forehead. Her name is Rosie, Cole said, handing Eleanor the reins. She has a gentle temperament and she is steady on rough ground. She should suit you well. Eleanor stroked the mare's soft nose and Rosie whickered softly as if in greeting. She is beautiful. Can you ride? Cole asked. Yes, my father did not restrict that, at least. He thought it was proper for a lady to ride. Eleanor accepted Cole's help mounting, moving gingerly but managing to settle into the saddle without too much pain. Cole swung up onto his own horse, a large bay gelding, and gathered the lead ropes for the other horses. Stay close and follow my lead. We are going to move fast for the first few hours to put distance between us and town. They rode out as the first gray light of dawn began to streak the eastern sky. Eleanor looked back once at Dusty Creek, at the church steeple rising above the other buildings, and then she turned her face forward toward the unknown. Whatever came next had to be better than what she was leaving behind. They rode hard through the morning, pushing the horses but not driving them to exhaustion. Cole clearly knew what he was doing, choosing good ground and setting a sustainable pace. Around midday, he called for a stop near a small creek surrounded by cottonwood trees. Eleanor dismounted carefully, her legs shaky from hours in the saddle and her back protesting the movement. Cole noticed her discomfort. We will take a longer rest here. The horses need water and grazing time anyway. How are you holding up? I am managing, Eleanor said, not wanting to complain. She led Rosie to the creek and let her drink while Cole tended to the other horses. Once the animals were secured, Cole unpacked some jerky and hardtack from his saddlebags. It was not appetizing, but Eleanor was hungry enough that she ate without complaint. They sat in the shade of the cottonwoods, the sound of the creek burbling pleasantly in the background. "This is going to take us about 6 weeks," Cole said, spreading a map on the ground between them. "We will head north through Texas, cut through the Oklahoma Territory, then across Kansas and Nebraska, through the Dakota Territory, and finally into Montana. Some stretches we will be able to buy supplies at towns or trading posts, but other times we will be on our own for days at a time." Eleanor studied the map, trying to comprehend the vast distance they would be covering. "That is a long way." "It is, but we will take it one day at a time." Cole looked at her seriously. "I need you to understand something. Out here there are dangers. Whether wild animals, rough terrain, and unfortunately rough people. I will do everything in my power to keep you safe, but you need to know how to protect yourself too. Can you shoot?" "No, my father never allowed it. He said guns were not for women." "Then I will teach you. Tonight when we make camp, I will show you how to handle a revolver. You do not need to be an expert marksman, but you need to know the basics." He paused. "I also need you to promise me something. If I tell you to do something, if I say run or hide or stay quiet, you do it without question. Not because I am trying to control you like your father did, but because in a dangerous situation, there is no time to debate. Can you do that?" Eleanor considered his words. She understood the difference between someone trying to keep her safe and someone trying to dominate her. "Yes." "I can do that." "Good." Cole folded the map and put it away. "One more thing. While we are on this journey, you can say whatever you want around me. You do not have to guard your words or pretend to be something you are not. If you have an opinion, share it. If you disagree with me, tell me. If you see a better way to do something, speak up. I mean that." Eleanor felt something tight in her chest loosen. "You have no idea what those words mean to me." "I think I have some idea." Cole's gray eyes were warm. "My sister used to say she felt like she was suffocating, like there was never enough air because she had to hold so much inside. I do not want you to feel that way. Life is too short to spend it silent." They rested for another hour and then continued riding. As the sun began to set, Cole found a good spot to make camp in a small clearing protected by rocks on one side and trees on the other. He showed Eleanor how to unsaddle and brush down the horses, how to hobble them so they could graze without wandering off too far, and how to build a proper fire that would give heat and light without creating so much smoke that it would signal their position to anyone who might be looking. After they had eaten a simple meal of beans and coffee, Cole brought out one of his revolvers. "This is a Colt single-action army," he said, showing her how to hold it properly. "It is loaded with 6 rounds. Always assume a gun is loaded, even if you think it is not. Never point it at anything you do not intend to shoot." Eleanor listened carefully as he explained the mechanics, how to aim, how to handle the recoil. He let her hold the unloaded gun, getting comfortable with the weight of it. "Tomorrow I will let you fire a few practice rounds so you know what to expect," he said. "But for now, I just want you familiar with it." That night, Eleanor lay in her bedroll looking up at the stars. There were so many, more than she had ever seen in town where the lights dimmed them. The vastness of the sky was overwhelming and comforting at the same time. She heard Cole moving around the camp, checking on the horses one final time before settling down on the other side of the fire. "Cole," she said quietly. "Yeah, thank you for all of this. For taking a chance on someone you barely know. We are getting to know each other now," he said. "That is what matters. Get some sleep, Eleanor. We have a long way to go yet." She closed her eyes and for the first time in years felt something like peace settle over her. The next several days fell into a rhythm. They woke before dawn, broke camp, and rode until mid-morning. Then they would rest the horses during the hottest part of the day and ride again in the late afternoon and early evening. Cole taught her how to track game, how to read the weather signs, how to find water. True to his word, he also taught her to shoot. She was not naturally talented at it, but she practiced diligently until she could at least hit what she was aiming at more often than not. They talked as they rode, and Eleanor found herself opening up to Cole in ways she never had with anyone else. She told him about her childhood, how her father had grown increasingly controlling after her mother had suffered several miscarriages. How he had decided that women were weak and needed to be managed strictly. How every small act of independence on Eleanor's part was met with punishment until she had learned to hide her true thoughts and feelings from everyone. "Except you could not quite hide them completely," Cole observed. "Or you would not have spoken up at that town meeting." "I tried to stay quiet," Eleanor admitted. "I really did, but the Hendersons have 5 children. The youngest is only 3 years old. The railroad company wants their land and my father is helping them because he stands to profit." I kept thinking about those children being put out on the street with nowhere to go, and I just could not stay silent anymore. "Good," Cole said firmly. "The world needs people who cannot stay silent in the face of injustice." Cole shared his own story as well. He had grown up in Missouri, the son of a farmer. His parents had died of fever when he was 19 and his sister Emma was 15. He had sold the farm and taken Emma west, looking for a fresh start. They had ended up in Montana and Cole had worked for various ranches, saving every penny. By the time he was 23, he had enough to buy land and start his own small horse ranch. Emma had married at 18 and Cole had thought she was happy. "I did not see the signs," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "Or maybe I did not want to see them." She always had bruises, but she explained them away, said she was clumsy, that she had fallen. She grew quieter over time, but I thought maybe that was just marriage changing her. It was not until after she died that her neighbor told me the truth, that her husband beat her regularly. That she had been too ashamed to tell me, afraid I would do something rash and end up in jail or worse. So she endured it until she could not endure anymore. "It was not your fault," Eleanor said gently. "My head knows that. My heart has a harder time accepting it." Cole looked over at her. "But that is why I do not ignore it when I see someone being hurt. I will not make that mistake again." Eleanor reached across the space between their horses and briefly touched his arm. "Your sister would be proud of you." "I hope so." As the days passed and they left Texas behind, entering the Oklahoma territory, Eleanor felt herself changing. The constant fear that had been her companion for so long began to fade. Her back healed slowly but steadily. She grew stronger, more confident in her abilities. Cole treated her as an equal partner, asking her opinion on which route to take or where to make camp. When she made a suggestion, he listened seriously and often agreed. One evening, about 2 weeks into the journey, they made camp near a river. The weather had been good, and they were making better time than Cole had anticipated. After dinner, Eleanor went down to the river to wash up. The water was cold and clear, and she knelt on the bank, splashing her face and neck. When she looked up, she saw Cole watching her from the camp, and there was something in his expression that made her breath catch. She walked back slowly, suddenly aware of the way the firelight played across his features, the strength in his shoulders, the gentle way he had with the horses. She had been so focused on escape, on survival, on putting one foot in front of the other, that she had not allowed herself to think about the man who had saved her. But now, in this quiet moment, she found herself thinking about him very much indeed. "Can I ask you something personal?" Eleanor said as she sat down across the fire from him. "Of course." "Why have you not married? You must be, what, 28, 29? Surely women in Montana would be interested in a rancher with his own land." Cole smiled slightly. "I am 27, actually, and I do not know. I have been so focused on building the ranch, on making it successful, that I have not made time for courting. Also, I suppose I have high standards. I want someone who is my partner, not my subordinate, someone with intelligence and spirit and courage. Those women do exist, but they are rare, and I am picky." "You should not settle for less than you deserve," Eleanor said softly. "Neither should you." Cole's eyes met hers across the fire, and the air between them suddenly felt charged with something unspoken. Eleanor looked away first, her heart beating faster. She had not thought about romance in years. Her father had paraded various suitors in front of her, all of them men he had chosen, men who looked at her like she was a problem to be solved or a possession to be acquired. She had rejected them all, preferring loneliness to marriage with someone who would try to control her. But Cole was different. Cole made her feel safe and respected and valued. Cole made her feel things she had not known she was capable of feeling. They did not speak of it that night, but something had shifted between them. As they continued north through Kansas, they encountered a problem. They had stopped in a small town to buy supplies, and while Cole was at the general store, Eleanor waited with the horses. A man approached her, rough-looking with a scraggly beard and clothes that had not been washed in far too long. "You traveling alone, pretty lady?" he asked, moving too close. "No," Eleanor said firmly. "My companion is in the store." Did not look like much of a companion to me. "Looked like you might need some better company." He reached out as if to touch her arm, and Eleanor stepped back. "I am not interested. Please leave me alone." "Now do not be unfriendly," the man said, and there was a threat in his tone now. Eleanor's hand moved to the revolver at her hip, the one Cole had given her to wear. She did not draw it, but the message was clear. "I said no. I will not say it again." The man's eyes narrowed, but before he could respond, Cole emerged from the store, his own hand resting casually on his gun. "Is there a problem here?" The man took one look at Cole and evidently decided he did not want that fight. "No problem," he muttered and walked away quickly. Cole looked at Eleanor with something like pride in his eyes. "You handled that well." "I was terrified," Eleanor admitted. "But you did not show it. That is what matters." Cole helped her mount Rosie. "Unfortunately, the store owner told me that word has spread about a woman matching your description traveling with a man heading north. Your father has put out notice in several towns, offering a reward for information about your whereabouts." Eleanor felt her blood run cold. How much of a reward? Enough to make some people interested. Cole's jaw was tight. "We are going to have to be more careful. Stay away from towns when possible. Maybe change your appearance somewhat." That night, Eleanor used Cole's knife to cut her long auburn hair to shoulder length. It felt strange and liberating at the same time. Cole also suggested she wear a hat pulled low and dress more like a young man when they had to pass through populated areas. It would not fool anyone looking closely, but from a distance it might help. The next few weeks were tenser. They saw riders in the distance a few times and had to detour to avoid them. Once, they had to hide in a canyon for half a day while a group of men rode past on the trail above them. Eleanor could not tell if they were bounty hunters or just regular travelers, but they could not take chances. Through it all, Cole remained calm and steady. He never complained about the extra trouble Eleanor's presence caused. He never suggested she would have been better off staying in Texas. Instead, he planned their route carefully, kept watch at night, and made sure she was safe. And somewhere along the way, Eleanor fell in love with him. It was not a sudden realization, but a gradual awareness that grew stronger each day. She loved the way he talked to the horses, patient and kind. She loved how he never made her feel foolish for asking questions. She loved his quiet strength and his gentle humor. She loved that he kept his promises, that when he said she could speak her mind around him, he meant it. They discussed everything under the sun during their long hours of riding. Politics, philosophy, books they had read, dreams they had for the future. Cole listened to her ideas with genuine interest, challenged her when he disagreed, and acknowledged when she made a good point. She did not know if he felt the same way. He was always respectful, always proper. He never touched her unnecessarily or said anything inappropriate. But sometimes she caught him looking at her with an expression that made her wonder. Sometimes their hands would brush when passing supplies, and the contact would linger just a moment longer than necessary. They were in Nebraska, about 4 weeks into their journey when the weather turned. Dark clouds rolled in from the west, and the temperature dropped sharply. Cole found them shelter in an abandoned homestead, just a small cabin with holes in the roof and a broken door, but it was better than being out in the open. They got the horses secured in what remained of the barn just as the rain started. Inside the cabin, Cole built a fire in the old stone fireplace while Eleanor spread out their bedrolls. The rain pounded on the roof, and wind howled through the gaps in the walls. It was cold enough that they could see their breath. "We will be stuck here until this passes," Cole said, coming to sit near the fire. "Could be a day or two." "I do not mind," Eleanor said. "The horses need rest anyway." They ate a cold supper and sat watching the fire. The forced proximity and the sound of the storm outside created an intimate atmosphere. Eleanor found herself acutely aware of Cole's presence, the way the firelight cast shadows across his face, the breadth of his shoulders, the capable strength in his hands. "Can I ask you something?" Cole said after a long silence. "Always. What do you want to do when we reach Montana? You said you have not decided yet, but you must have some thoughts." Eleanor considered the question. "I do not know exactly. I have no skills beyond managing a household and riding horses. I suppose I could find work as a housekeeper or a governess, though neither appeals to me much. What I really want is to feel useful, to do something that matters, but I do not know what form that takes yet." "You are good with the horses," Cole said. "You have learned quickly and they respond well to you. You could work with horses if you wanted. You are just saying that to be kind." "No, I am saying it because it is true." Cole shifted to face her more directly. "Eleanor, these past weeks traveling with you have been some of the best I can remember. You are smart and capable and brave. You work hard without complaining. You pull your own weight. And you make me laugh, which is not easy to do. What I am trying to say badly is that when we get to Montana, if you wanted to stay at my ranch, there would be a place for you there." Eleanor's heart began to race. "As what? An employee?" Cole held her gaze. "As whatever you want to be. I do not want to presume anything. I know we have not known each other long, but I care about you, Eleanor, more than I probably should. And I hope, that maybe you feel something similar. But if I am wrong, if you just see me as the man who helped you escape and nothing more, then you can still stay and work with the horses, and I will never mention this again." Eleanor could hardly breathe. "You are not wrong," she said quietly. "I do care about you. I think I started caring about you that first day when you stepped between me and the whip. But I was afraid to say anything because I thought maybe you were just being kind, just trying to help someone in trouble." "It started as that," Cole admitted, "but it has become so much more." "You are so much more. I love talking with you. I love hearing your opinions even when they are different from mine. I love your courage and your compassion. I love that you refuse to let your father break you. I love you, Eleanor. I know it is too soon and too fast, but I do." "It does not feel too soon to me," Eleanor whispered. "We have spent every day together for a month. We have faced dangers and hardships. We have talked about everything. I feel like I know you better than I have ever known anyone. And I love you too, Cole. I did not think I was capable of love, not after everything I have been through, but you taught me otherwise." Cole reached across the space between them and cupped her face gently in his hand. "Can I kiss you?" "Yes," Eleanor breathed. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, but she did not want to change her mind. When his lips met hers, it was gentle and sweet and full of promise. Eleanor felt like something locked inside her chest finally opened, like she could breathe fully for the first time in her life. She kissed him back, her hands coming up to rest on his shoulders, feeling the solid warmth of him. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," Cole admitted. "So have I," Eleanor said. "I was just too afraid to hope that you might want it too." They spent the rest of the evening sitting close together, talking about the future. Cole described his ranch in detail. The 200 acres of good grazing land, the sturdy house he had built with his own hands, the barn and corrals, the small herd of horses he had been developing. "It is not much yet," he said, "but it has potential. With 2 people working it could grow into something really special." "I want to help," Eleanor said. "I want to learn everything about raising horses. I want to be your partner in this, truly." "You will be," Cole promised, "in every way." They kissed again, and this time it was deeper, more passionate. Eleanor felt a hunger she had never experienced before, a desire that made her whole body feel alive. But Cole pulled back with what looked like great effort. "We should wait," he said, his voice rough. "When we get to Montana, we can do this properly. I can court you and we can get married, and then we will have the rest of our lives." Eleanor appreciated his restraint even as part of her wanted to throw caution aside, but he was right. They had time now. They did not have to rush. "You are a good man, Cole Brennan." "I am trying to be the man you deserve," he said. The storm lasted through the night and into the next morning. They stayed in the cabin, safe and warm, and talked about their dreams. Cole wanted to breed horses that were known throughout the territory for their quality and temperament. Eleanor talked about maybe helping other women who were in situations like hers had been, though she was not sure yet how that would work. They were just beginning to explore the possibilities of their shared future. When the weather finally cleared, they resumed their journey with renewed energy. Knowing that they were traveling toward a future together made every mile feel purposeful. They still had to be careful and watch for anyone who might be looking for Eleanor, but they were getting farther from Texas every day, and Cole felt confident they would make it safely. They crossed into the Dakota Territory without incident. The landscape changed, becoming more rugged and beautiful. Eleanor understood what Cole had meant about the wide open spaces. There was something soul-stirring about the endless sky and rolling plains, the way you could see storms coming from miles away, the sense of possibility that came with so much open land. They were about a week from the Montana border when they encountered another problem. They had stopped to water the horses at a creek when three men rode up. Eleanor recognized the look in their eyes immediately. These were men who had heard about the reward. "That is a fine group of horses you have got there," one of them said, but he was looking at Eleanor, not the animals. Cole stepped slightly in front of her. "We are just passing through, do not want any trouble." "No trouble at all," the man said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "But seems like we heard about a woman traveling this way, woman whose daddy is awful worried about her. Offering good money to anyone who can bring her home safely." "I do not know anything about that," Cole said evenly. "See, we think you do." The man's hand moved toward his gun. "We think that woman is right behind you, and we think you are going to step aside so we can collect her and that reward." "That is not going to happen," Cole said, and his voice carried absolute conviction. Eleanor's hand moved to her own gun, her heart pounding. She was not sure she could actually shoot someone, but she would try if she had to. The situation hung balanced on a knife's edge for a long moment. Then one of the other men spoke up. "Jake, he has got 2 guns and he looks like he knows how to use them. The woman is armed too. Even if we win this fight, one of us is likely to get shot. Is the reward really worth that?" Jake looked frustrated, but after a tense moment he backed down. "This is not over," he said to Cole. "We will be letting her father know where you are headed." "You do that," Cole said. "By the time any message reaches him and he organizes to come after us, we will be long gone." The 3 men rode off, but the encounter left both Cole and Eleanor shaken. That night, they made camp in a well-hidden spot and kept watch in shifts, neither of them sleeping well. "I am sorry," Eleanor said during her watch shift, when Cole should have been sleeping but was clearly awake. "I am sorry for all the trouble I have brought to your life." "Stop that," Cole said, sitting up. "You have brought trouble, yes, but you have also brought joy and purpose and love. I would not trade these weeks with you for anything. Not for an easy journey or a peaceful life or anything else. Do you understand?" Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. "I understand. I feel the same way." "Good. Now try to get some rest. We will cross into Montana tomorrow if we make good time. Once we are on my land, you will be safe. I promise you that." He kept that promise. 2 days later, exhausted and trail-worn but triumphant, they rode onto Cole's ranch. It was beautiful in a wild, untamed way. The house was modest but well-built, with a wide porch and large windows. The barn was sturdy and the corrals were in good repair. Mountains rose in the distance, their peaks still capped with snow even though it was now June. "Welcome home," Cole said softly. Eleanor looked around, taking it all in, and felt something settle in her soul. Home, she repeated, and the word felt right in a way nothing had felt right in years. They spent the next few days settling in. Cole showed Eleanor around the ranch, introduced her to his small herd of horses, and taught her the daily routines. She threw herself into learning everything, working from dawn until dusk. Her back had healed completely by now, leaving scars she knew she would carry forever. But they were marks of survival, not shame. True to his word, Cole courted her properly. He brought her wildflowers picked from the meadow. He taught her to fish in the stream that ran through his property. They went on rides through the mountains, and he showed her hidden valleys and pristine lakes. In the evenings, they sat on the porch and watched the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. A month after they arrived, Cole rode into the nearest town and came back with the circuit preacher. "I know we said we would take our time," he said to Eleanor, "but I do not want to wait any more. I want you to be my wife truly and legally so that no one can ever take you away from me. Will you marry me, Eleanor?" Eleanor did not hesitate. "Yes, absolutely yes." They were married on the porch of the ranch house with the preacher and two of Cole's ranch hands as witnesses. Eleanor wore a simple blue dress that she had bought in town, and Cole wore his best shirt and trousers. The ceremony was short and sweet, and when the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed her with a passion and tenderness that made her knees weak. That night, in the bedroom of the house that was now hers too, they consummated their marriage. Cole was gentle and patient, making sure Eleanor felt safe and loved. She had been nervous, knowing nothing of physical intimacy except what she had heard whispered among married women, but Cole made it beautiful. He worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, learning what made her gasp and sigh. When they finally joined together, it felt like the most natural thing in the world, like two pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together perfectly. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, Eleanor's head on Cole's chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I did not know it could be like this," she said softly. "I did not know I could feel this happy." "Get used to it," Cole said, pressing a kiss to her hair. "This is just the beginning." Life on the ranch was hard work, but it was work that Eleanor found deeply satisfying. She discovered she had a real talent for working with horses, especially the young ones. She was patient and gentle, and the animals responded to her. Together, she and Cole built a reputation for quality horses that were well-trained and even-tempered. Word spread and buyers started coming from far and wide. About 6 months after they arrived in Montana, a letter came. It was addressed to Cole and carried a Texas postmark. Eleanor felt her stomach drop when she saw it. Cole opened it and read silently, his expression grim. "It is from your mother," he said finally. Eleanor's hands shook as she took the letter. Her mother's handwriting was shaky but readable. "My dearest Eleanor, I do not know if this letter will reach you, but I must try. I want you to know that I am proud of you for having the courage to leave. I wish I had been strong enough to do the same years ago. Your father is in poor health. His rage has consumed him from the inside. The doctor says he may not live another year. He has been asking for you, but I have not told him that I found out where you are through Mrs. Patterson. I will not betray your location. I want you to be happy and free. That is all I have ever wanted for you, though I failed to protect you for so long. Please forgive me. Please live the life I could not. Your loving mother." Eleanor read the letter twice, tears streaming down her face. Cole pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried for the mother who had been lost to fear and laudanum, for the childhood she never had, for all the pain that could have been avoided if her father had been a different kind of man. "You want to go back?" Cole asked quietly. "To see her?" Eleanor shook her head. "No, it is too dangerous, and I do not think I could face my father even if he is dying, but I want to write to her. I want her to know that I forgive her and that I am happy." She wrote a long letter to her mother, telling her about Montana and the ranch and Cole. She described the mountains and the freedom she felt every day. She thanked her mother for the letter and for keeping her secret. She signed it with love and gave it to Cole to post in town. A few months later, another letter came. This time it was from Mrs. Patterson, informing them that Eleanor's mother had passed away peacefully in her sleep. The letter also mentioned that Samuel Montgomery had died 2 weeks prior, his heart finally giving out. The ranch had been sold to pay his debts, and the Henderson family, thanks to Mrs. Patterson's intervention and some legal maneuvering, had been able to purchase back their own land. Eleanor mourned her mother but felt a sense of closure. She was sad that they had never been able to have a real relationship, but at least her mother's last letter had given her some peace. As for her father, she felt very little. He had been dead to her long before his physical death. Life moved forward. The ranch continued to prosper. Cole and Eleanor worked side by side every day, true partners in every sense. They argued sometimes, as all couples do, but they had learned how to communicate honestly. Eleanor never had to guard her words or hide her feelings. Cole encouraged her opinions and valued her input. It was the kind of marriage she had not dared to dream of back in Dusty Creek. 2 years after their wedding, Eleanor discovered she was pregnant. She was nervous about becoming a mother, afraid she would not know how to do it right after having such a poor example. But Cole was excited and supportive, and together they prepared for the new addition to their family. Their son was born in March 1881 during a late spring snowstorm. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Eleanor was frightened, but the midwife from town was competent, and Cole held her hand through it all. When she finally heard her baby's first cry, Eleanor wept with relief and joy. They named him Thomas, after Cole's father. He was a healthy, robust baby with dark hair and his mother's green eyes. Cole was a natural father, patient and gentle with the infant. Eleanor sometimes watched him rocking Thomas to sleep and felt her heart might burst with love for both of them. As Thomas grew, he became a curious, energetic child who loved the horses as much as his parents did. Eleanor taught him to read and write, and Cole taught him to ride. They were building a life full of love and laughter, so different from the harsh, fearful environment Eleanor had grown up in. 3 years after Thomas was born, their daughter arrived. They named her Emma after Cole's sister. She had her father's gray eyes and a sweet disposition. With 2 young children, the ranch was busier than ever, but also fuller and happier. Eleanor sometimes thought about the woman she had been in Texas, standing on that platform enduring the whip. That woman felt like a stranger now. She had been so broken, so convinced that she would never be free. She wished she could go back and tell that woman that a better life was possible, that love and respect and partnership were real things, not just fairy tales. One evening when Thomas was 8 and Emma was 5, the family sat on the porch after dinner watching the sunset. Thomas was telling a long, involved story about a horse he had been working with, and Emma was trying to interject her own opinions. Cole listened to both of them patiently, asking questions and offering suggestions. Eleanor watched her family and felt such profound gratitude that she had to look away for a moment to compose herself. Cole noticed and reached over to take her hand. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. "How different my life is from what I thought it would be. How lucky I am." "How much I love all of you." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "I never thanked you properly, you know, for saving me that day." "You did not need saving," Cole said. "You were already saving yourself. I just helped you along the way." "We saved each other," Eleanor said. "I think that is closer to the truth." That night, after the children were in bed, Cole and Eleanor sat together in their bedroom. They had added onto the house over the years, and it was now a comfortable, sprawling home filled with books and photographs and the accumulated treasures of a well-lived life. "Do you ever regret it?" Eleanor asked. "Taking on a broken woman and all the complications that came with her." Cole pulled her close. "You were never broken. You were bent, maybe, but never broken, and no, I have never regretted it for a single moment. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You and the children, you are my whole world." "You are mine too," Eleanor said. "Everything good in my life started the day you stepped onto that platform and said enough." They made love that night with the easy familiarity of two people who knew each other's bodies as well as their own, but also with the passion that had never dimmed between them. Afterward, Eleanor lay in Cole's arms and thought about how far she had come. She had found her voice and her strength. She had found love and partnership. She had found a place where she could speak her mind freely without fear. She had found home. The years continued to pass. Thomas grew into a fine young man who took over more and more of the ranch operations. He had his mother's sense of justice and his father's steady temperament. Emma was bright and spirited, determined to go to the new university that had opened in Missoula. Eleanor and Cole supported both of their children's dreams, encouraging them to find their own paths. When Eleanor was 45 and Cole was 50, they took a trip to Texas. It had been over 20 years since Eleanor had fled, and she wanted to see it one more time to prove to herself that the ghosts no longer had power over her. They rode into Dusty Creek on a warm afternoon in May. The town had changed. Many of the buildings were different, and most of the people were strangers, but the church was still there, and so was the cottage behind it. Mrs. Patterson had passed away several years earlier, but her niece lived in the cottage now and maintained the church. Eleanor stood in the street where the punishment platform had once been. It had been torn down years ago, replaced by a small park. She thought about the young woman she had been, bloodied and defiant, and felt a wave of compassion for that girl. "Are you all right?" Cole asked, standing beside her. "Yes," Eleanor said. "I am more than all right. I needed to come back to see that this place has no hold on me anymore. I am free, Cole, truly free." They visited the cemetery where her mother was buried. Eleanor left wildflowers on the grave and said a prayer. She did not visit her father's grave. She had forgiven him in the sense that she no longer carried the anger and hurt, but she saw no need to pay respects to a man who had shown her none. That evening they had dinner at the hotel, and the owner recognized Eleanor's name when Cole signed the register. "You are Samuel Montgomery's daughter?" the man asked. "I heard stories about you, about how you ran off with a stranger and disappeared." "I did not run off," Eleanor said calmly. "I left a bad situation and found a better life. Is that so difficult to understand?" The man looked uncomfortable. "I suppose not. It is just that your father had a lot of influence here. People were afraid to cross him. People should not live in fear," Eleanor said. "And they should not stay silent when they see injustice. That lesson took me a long time to learn, but once I did, it changed everything." The next day they left Texas and headed back north to Montana. Eleanor felt lighter, as if she had laid down a burden she had been carrying for years. She had returned to the place of her pain and found that it no longer had power over her. She had survived, and more than that, she had thrived. Back at the ranch, Thomas and Emma welcomed them home. The horses were all healthy and the ranch was running smoothly. That night, the whole family gathered for dinner, laughing and talking over each other in the warm, chaotic way of people who loved each other deeply. After dinner, Eleanor and Cole took their usual walk down to the stream. It had become their ritual over the years, a time to talk privately and reconnect at the end of each day. "I have been thinking," Cole said as they sat on the bank watching the water flow past. "We have built something really good here, not just the ranch but our family, our life. I want to make sure that legacy continues. I have been talking to some other ranchers about forming a cooperative, working together to improve breeding standards and fair business practices. I think it could help a lot of people." "I think that is a wonderful idea," Eleanor said. "And I have been thinking too. I want to do more to help women who are in situations like I was. I know there are women even here in Montana who are being abused or controlled. I want to create some kind of network, a way for them to find help and safety. Maybe we could use part of the ranch, build a small house where women could stay temporarily while they figure out their next steps." Cole looked at her with pride and love. That is exactly the kind of thing Emma would have wanted someone to do for her. "I think it is a perfect way to honor her memory and help others at the same time. Let us do it. Together." They started planning immediately. Cole worked with other ranchers to establish fair practices and mutual support. Eleanor, with help from sympathetic women in the community, created a quiet network for helping women escape dangerous situations. They built a small house on the far side of the ranch property, and over the years it provided temporary refuge for dozens of women and children who needed a safe place while they transitioned to new lives. Eleanor never advertised what she was doing. She did not want attention or praise. She just wanted to help, to be for other women what Cole had been for her, a lifeline when everything seemed hopeless. As Cole and Eleanor entered their 60s, they began to slow down. Thomas took over the main operations of the ranch, and Emma, after finishing university, became a teacher and advocate for women's rights. Both children had married well and were starting families of their own. One evening, Cole and Eleanor sat on their porch watching their grandchildren play in the yard. There were 4 of them now, ranging in age from 2 to 7, and they were running around shrieking with laughter while Thomas and Emma tried unsuccessfully to corral them for bedtime. "We did well," Cole said quietly, taking Eleanor's hand. "We did," Eleanor agreed. "We built something beautiful out of something that started with so much pain. I never thought I would have this. A family, a home, a purpose, love. You deserved all of it and more," Cole said. "You were always extraordinary, Eleanor. From the very first moment I saw you standing on that platform refusing to be broken, you are the strongest person I have ever known." Eleanor leaned her head on his shoulder. "You gave me the space to find that strength. You told me I could say whatever I want around you and you meant it. Do you know how rare that is, how precious?" "I know," Cole said. "And I meant it then and I mean it now. After all these years, I still want to hear every thought in that beautiful mind of yours." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of orange and pink as it set behind the mountains. The grandchildren were finally rounded up and taken inside, and the ranch settled into evening quiet. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I had not stopped in Dusty Creek that day?" Cole asked. "If I had just ridden on past," Eleanor considered the question. "Sometimes, but I think we were meant to find each other. Maybe I would have found another way to escape, or maybe I would not have survived much longer. But I do believe that somehow, some way we were meant to be together. You and me, this life." "I believe that too," Cole said. "You are my great love, Eleanor Brennan. You always have been and you always will be." "And you are mine," Eleanor said. "My savior, my partner, my best friend, my love, everything." They kissed then, soft and sweet, 2 people who had weathered storms and built something lasting. When they finally went inside, Eleanor paused at the door and looked back at the ranch spread out before them in the fading light. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain and fear of her early life. The moment of salvation when Cole had stepped in. The long trail north to freedom. The building of a life and a family. The work of helping others find their own freedom. All of it had led to this moment, this place, this profound sense of contentment and peace. "Say whatever you want around me," Cole had told her that first day, and he had kept that promise every day since. He had given her not just physical safety but emotional safety. The freedom to be herself fully, without apology or fear. And in return, she had given him her whole heart, her fierce loyalty, her partnership in building something meaningful. As they settled into bed that night, wrapped in each other's arms as they had been for decades, Eleanor thought about what advice she would give to that young woman on the platform all those years ago. She would tell her to hold on, that rescue was coming. She would tell her that pain was not forever, that there were good men in the world who treated women as equals and partners. She would tell her that speaking your mind was not a flaw but a strength, and that the right person would celebrate that about you, not try to silence it. She would tell her that love was real and that it was worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth believing in. But mostly, she would tell her that she was going to survive, that she was going to be happy. That the best parts of her life were still ahead of her, waiting to unfold in ways she could not yet imagine. Cole's breathing deepened as he fell asleep, but Eleanor stayed awake a little longer, savoring the warmth of his body next to hers, the sound of the wind outside, the knowledge that she was safe and loved and home. She had been punished for speaking her mind freely, but she had found a man who said, "Say whatever you want around me," and meant it with his whole heart. That had made all the difference. That had changed everything. Eleanor closed her eyes and smiled in the darkness. Tomorrow there would be work to do, horses to train, grandchildren to spoil, women to help, a life to live. But tonight there was just this: peace, love, and the profound satisfaction of a life well lived. She drifted off to sleep thinking about how grateful she was for every twist and turn that had brought her to this place, to this man, to this beautiful, hard-won happiness. The scars on her back had long since faded to thin white lines, barely visible. But even if they had remained angry and raised, she would not have minded. They were proof that she had survived, that she had endured, that she had refused to be broken, and in the end she had not just survived. She had thrived, she had loved and been loved. She had found her voice and used it to help others. She had built a legacy that would continue long after she was gone. The young woman who had stood on that platform, bloodied but defiant, would be proud of what she had become. Eleanor was proud of her too. Proud of her courage, her resilience, her refusal to accept that suffering was all life had to offer. As she finally slipped into sleep, Eleanor's last conscious thought was one of gratitude. Gratitude for Cole, for their children, for the ranch, for Montana, for every person who had helped along the way. But most of all, gratitude for that moment when Cole had said, "That is enough," and changed the trajectory of her entire life. It had been enough. More than enough. It had been everything. And so Eleanor Montgomery Brennan, who had once been punished for speaking her mind freely, but had found a cowboy who said, "Say whatever you want around me," lived out her days in happiness and peace, surrounded by love, secure in the knowledge that she had found exactly what she had been searching for: freedom, partnership, and a place where she could be wholly, completely, unapologetically herself. The ranch continued for generations, a testament to what two people could build when they worked together with love and respect. The small house on the property continued to provide refuge for women in need, a legacy of Eleanor's compassion and determination to help others find the freedom she had found. And every evening, for as long as they both lived, Cole and Eleanor sat on their porch and watched the sunset over the Montana mountains, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. Two souls who had found each other against all odds and had built something beautiful together. It was a good life, a very good life indeed.